Hello and welcome to the John Ark Show. This episode is called Bedroom Gold Rush. Before we begin, I want to encourage you to subscribe, like, comment, and follow us. Also, I'd like to tell you about a service called Hollywood is Calling. This is a great service that allows you to purchase live phone calls from your favorite celebrities, so check them out. There are more than 100 celebrities to choose from. You can purchase a live 15-second call for $19.95 or a live 30-second call for $29.95. You can have the celebrity call you, or you can have the celebrity call a friend of yours. You can talk to them live, or you can send the call to voicemail and have the celebrity leave a recorded message, which you can then play back later for all your friends to hear. So check it out. It's called HollywoodIsCalling.com. Now, let's get started. Millions of Americans are now going to be filing for bankruptcy soon because they still can't find jobs or make any money in this economy. They've depleted their savings, sold whatever property or assets they had left to try and raise money to pay off their bills. Most troubling of all, many of the companies they used to work for a couple of months ago have closed and filed for bankruptcy. So there is no going back to them for work in the future. Now, the government is talking about mailing out another round of $1,300 checks, but that's simply too little and too late to prevent millions of people from going off the financial cliff. There may be a moratorium on evictions, but there are still a lot of people who are moving out and going to live with family or friends. Now, there's another category of individuals out there, and they are staying in their homes or in their apartments as long as the eviction moratorium will allow them to, but they don't have the money to pay for the utilities or food or gas or rent or cars. So what are these people going to do to survive? We're noticing a new financial phenomenon being used by people to make money under these circumstances. We're calling it the bedroom gold rush, and here's how it works. People are living in homes or apartments with extra bedrooms, and they're starting to rent them out on Airbnb or Craigslist or to friends or family members. But they're doing it in a new way. They're not renting them out formally because they don't want to get stuck with a tenant who might refuse to pay the rent and won't leave because of the eviction moratorium. What they're doing instead is they're letting them stay for free as guests. And instead of charging them for rent, they're charging them for meals or water or even car rides each week. This way, the tenant can never claim that they're an actual legal tenant. Now, the cost of those meals will be equal to what the rent would be, but there's a big difference. If something goes wrong, you can throw a guest out of the house during the moratorium. But if they're a formal and legal tenant, then you can't evict them if they decide not to leave. Another thing that's happening is that people are so desperate for money that they're avoiding the payment of taxes on the room rentals by only accepting cash. And that cash has to be paid in advance. Now, rooms on Airbnb can rent from $50 to $200 a night, depending on the size and the sleeping capacity. If they try and keep it unofficial by keeping things off the tax books, by renting directly to friends or family, then they can make even more money by not paying taxes on the cash that the renter is paying them. They're also making even more money by taking things a step further. How are they doing that? They're creating unofficial and unpermitted bedrooms in their basements, their attics, and their garages by simply adding beds with some mattresses and then calling that a bedroom. Now, they may have to reduce the price because it's basically just a bed in the basement or the garage, but if the alternative is sleeping on the streets or under a highway overpass, then most desperate people will be happy to rent out a bed in a basement. Mind you, this is all off the books and illegal, but given how bad the economy is, I believe that most people won't have a problem with it. If you're faced with the option of not being able to feed your kids or renting out a few unpermitted and unofficial bedrooms to someone so as to make some money, then I think most people will gladly take option two. Because of all this, we're seeing a massive increase in the sale of mattresses and bunk beds. The reason for that is that the more people you rent your rooms out to, the more you can charge for them. Sometimes people will rent out some of the rooms, but they will barter them for labor instead of money. Because cash is getting so tight out there, and there are so many people who can't afford to even rent a single bedroom, we're now seeing people renting out rooms in exchange for whatever labor or skill someone can provide them or their company. Some small businesses and restaurant owners are now being so devastated by this economy that they can't really afford to pay staff what they used to because the government won't let them run at full capacity. So the only way that they can keep their doors open and the business afloat is to hire some staff that will agree to temporarily work for room and board until things get better. The idea being to keep the company alive long enough until the economy and consumers come back to a point where the business owner will be able to start paying them in actual money. The speculation is that in some cities and states, as many as 10% of the restaurants are keeping themselves open by staffing with workers who have accepted these types of barter temporary arrangements. Now, what about the numbers? Well, let's say you have a 3-bedroom house and you're desperate for money. In some cases, what people are doing is that they're moving the kids out of their rooms and renting them out to strangers. The kids will sleep in bunk beds that have been set up elsewhere in the house, and in exchange for that inconvenience, the family gets to make enough money to keep paying the bills. If you have a spare bedroom that you manage to rent out for $50 a night, then that's $1,500 a month. Rent out 2 bedrooms, and that's an extra $3,000. If you throw a dozen cots in the basement or the garage and rent them out for $20 a night, then that's another $240 a night or $7,200 a month. If you cook or sell meals to everyone renting out a cot or a room for the night, then that can be even more income. Once again, this is all illegal and we don't advise it, but both parties to these transactions often have few other options. The next thing we're seeing is a resurgence in flop houses or boarding houses. Now, these are unofficial, off the books, and unlicensed, of course. It's all completely illegal. They're not advertised to the public because the owners don't want the city inspectors discovering them. What people will do is that they will set up 20 to 100 cots in a basement or abandoned warehouse and just let people rent them out by the night. You can rent a cot or you can rent a cot and a meal. Another thing we're seeing is an increase in people renting out their second or third cars to make extra money. They're using peer-to-peer car sharing services like Turo.com. Depending on the type of vehicle they rent out, they can make anywhere from $30 to $200 a day in extra income. The next thing we're seeing is a dramatic spike in what's known as desperation prostitution. This is typically done by women who would never have sold themselves under normal circumstances, but given how bad the job market is, they're now forced into it just to feed their families. What you have to keep in mind is that the people doing these things are not criminals, and I don't believe that if they were arrested for doing what they're doing, that any jury in the country would ever convict them. These are simply people coming up with innovative ways, a little desperate, but innovative ways to keep feeding their families at a time when the economy is in huge trouble. So with that, I want to thank you for watching, and we will talk to you soon.